Yes. Well, I've got some good news. We found the Rush Limbaugh montage of the word gravitas in the news media. So, see, we're working for you. That's what we're doing. We're on Team America. We're on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. That's a fact. Now, we had a doctor call in, a medical doctor. He self-identified as medical doctor. Called in and spoke to Jeff and said, Chris is weaving fantasies in there that you can't develop autism in a matter of days after being vaccinated. And he was invited to go on the air and talk about it, but he opted not to, which is fine. We do free speech, and that means you don't have to, right? But you're welcome to. So that's the kind of people we are. That's what we do. All right, now there's a lot of other stuff to get to too. And yeah, MSNBC, they're attacking RFK Jr. I'm sure CNN is attacking RFK Jr. I know the Washington Post is attacking RFK Jr. because he had the gall, the chutzpah to change a line. And how do these people find that a line had changed on a health department website, an HHS website? How could they possibly have realized that? And then they all find out at the same time, and they all have the same opinion at the same time as well. And they turn it into international fake news. RFK Jr. updates CDC website to link vaccines to autism despite years of agency fighting misinformation. Well, you seem to be implying or suggesting that it's misinformation to raise this question. The website now states studies supporting a link have been ignored by health authorities. Well, have they? And because media people just take whatever the government tells them, and they parrot whatever the government tells them, and they're very upset about this. Very upset. New guidance, which caught many in the agency off guard, reflects the views of Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr., a longtime vaccine skeptic. They used to call him a denier or something. I think they changed that to skeptic. But the website said that studies have found no link between developing autism and vaccination or specific ingredients in inoculations. But now the site states that studies supporting a link have been ignored by health authorities. Well, have they? They claim that vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. Now, I'm not an immunologist or a vaccinologist, but I'd like to think that these things have been examined thoroughly and completely. I think we have a great deal of data on the subject because over the course of decades, ... or period, as Joe Biden might say, were there an ellipsis in the teleprompter? All right, Michael, let's go to Pamela Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States of America, because now you see the House and the Senate have passed with a ridiculously named bill about releasing the Epstein documents, like Jeffrey Epstein Transparency Act of 2025. It's taken decades to get here, but never mind that. And the Attorney General yesterday, Pam Bondi, soundbite number 1 on our cut sheet today, as a matter of fact. And she's talking about handing over because, now that the Congress has voted in the House and the Senate on this bill to release the Epstein documents, now it's apparently in the hands of the Justice Department. You may remember Pam Bondi, when she was brand new in the Justice Department as Attorney General, said, we're going to release the Epstein documents, lickety-split. And then that didn't happen, lickety-split. And now Congress had to pass an act that they made up with a ridiculous name. I'm surprised it's not an acronym. But Pamela Bondi yesterday saying, hey, we've released lots and lots of documents. And, the Democrats have already had plenty of opportunity to comb through the documents and do their word search for the name Trump so they can find whatever sinister, incriminating information they would like to use. And they haven't released any smoking gun, any bombshell from the 23,000 documents insinuating or even suggesting that Donald Trump had done anything terrible. And they did redact the name of the lady who was one of the Epstein victims as a young girl. And she died, apparently, by suicide a few years ago. But she came out and said, Trump never had anything to do with any of this. And the Democrats left that out when they were leaking documents to the New York Times from their congressional investigation. But let's go to the Attorney General, Pamela Bondi, yesterday on the documents been released. And as I said yesterday, they now have 30 days at the Justice Department, now that Congress has passed the bill, which shouldn't have had to have been done at all. They have 30 days at the Justice Department to release the remaining documents. And they've already said out loud, the Speaker of the House has, well, there are names in there that need to be redacted. So there are going to be redactions from the documents when and if they're released in 30 days. And again, it's going to kind of stink to high heaven. But here's the Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
We have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
Which sounds like a good idea. I'm in favor of that. I've got to say, didn't Hillary Clinton destroy 33,000 emails and have her staff pound their phones with hammers and smash the hard drives? And that was 33,000 documents, wasn't it? It sounds like a lot when you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein documents. But when Hillary Clinton destroyed 33,000, presumably entirely classified documents, isn't that amazing? So 33,000 documents and maximum transparency. That word transparency is used a lot in Washington. Sometimes they seem to know what the word means. And encourage all victims to come forward. It's been years and years and years, and millions of dollars have been dispersed to victims. And none of the parents have come forward, except one father on Capitol Hill day before yesterday. We played the audio for you yesterday. Never mind that. Kamala Harris, former vice president. In fact, she's at the National Cathedral right now where the Dick Cheney funeral is taking place. And there have been some funny moments. Joe Biden and not a Dr. Jill Biden are sitting next to George W. Bush and his loving bride as well, who's a very nice person. And sitting next to them, who said it? It might be Kamala sitting there, right? And Mike Pence is sitting there. And George Bush had Al Gore was sitting behind him. Remember Gore versus Bush? It was a Supreme Court case. And Al Gore is sitting right behind George W. Bush. And George W. Bush was turning around and leaning back and telling jokes and laughing. And Al Gore wasn't laughing so much, but W. Bush was laughing because he's always having a good time. And he was laughing. And I think he was probably saying, isn't it funny that I was president and you weren't? Remember that dangling Chad thing? That was funny, wasn't it? Yeah, you guys brought the Supreme Court, and you still lost. You guys, and then Hillary lost. Hey, where's Hillary? She lost. That's great. But Kamala Harris, she lost, and to Donald Trump. And Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, too. The only two women ever to run on major party ticket. Both lost to Donald Trump. That's just fun. Kamala Harris doing another lame podcast with another wanker from the Democrat Party.
I think it is, again, just another, the current president's statements most recently about this are another example of him attempting to gaslight the American people. And I say that because all of a sudden he is saying he'll wait to see what Congress does. Since when?
Why you say
Release
woo?
the files. Release the files.
And the wanker podcaster doesn't say, well, may I pause for a moment and point out that you were vice president for 4 years and you didn't say a word about releasing the files, and Joe Biden was president for 4 years and he didn't say a word about releasing the files, and the Biden-Harris Justice Department, which was the most corrupt in the history of the country, had possession, custody of all of the files for 4 years and didn't release the files. Nobody says that, because they're not journalists, they're fluffers for the Democrat Party. Aren't they amazing? Now, CNN, they got this woman, Pamela Brown, and they're talking about Stacey Plaskett, the Democrat non-voting delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who is technically a member of Congress, yet a non-voting member. And talking about Stacey Plaskett, who is taking her marching orders directly from Jeffrey Epstein by text message to her personal phone from Jeffrey Epstein's personal phone. And, you know, that's where Pedophile Island is in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And she's like, oh, he's a constituent of mine. Yeah, well, he actually lived in New York and then 6 months plus 1 day in Palm Beach, Florida for tax reasons. And then he owned, Child Rape Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And she says, oh, he's a constituent of mine, right? Stacey Plaskett on CNN with Pamela Brown.
Why were you even texting with Epstein at the time? He was a known sex offender then.
Sure. I explain to people,
sure.
I've been a prosecutor for many years.
Irrelevant.
And there are a lot of people who have information that are not your friends.
Information.
That you use to get information to get at the truth. This was 7 years ago.
What were you trying to get
at?
at?
People need to understand this was a huge hearing that was taking place with Michael Cohen.
Huge hearing. It was taking place with Michael Cohen, Trump's former disgraced lawyer, Michael Cohen. Now, wait a minute. Now, the idiot anchor is sitting there saying, well, I don't know what any of that has to do with anything, or at least that's what she should be saying. And wait, you were, what, a lot of people have, you were a prosecutor and a lot of people have a lot of information? You were pumping him for information? What, you were during a hearing? No, you were taking text messages from him and reading them aloud in the hearing room. He might as well have been in your brain or been your brain because he was speaking for you. You were parroting everything that Jeffrey Epstein texted you. You weren't quizzing him on some ongoing crime. He was already a convicted sex offender and a well-known notorious sex offender. And CNN continued, but not with the appropriate follow-ups, of course, Pamela Brown and Stacey Plaskett.
Yes or no, if Epstein had not brought up Rona to you in that text, would you have asked Michael Cohen about her independently?
Yes or no?
Probably not. I asked about 3 other individuals as well. Everyone
Were
knew,
they in the hearing?
Other people knew that this woman had been the president's assistant.
The president's Rona was that was Jeffrey Epstein's assistant, Rona. And again, the news anchor doesn't follow the news because she doesn't know what follow-ups to ask Pamela Brown. It continued to the eternal embarrassment of both of them.
I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth.
What? What?
Having a friendship with him
truth of what?
Is not something that I would deem to have. So I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that's what we as American people should do is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity,
they are.
Extend what people are doing moving forward.
What? None of that makes any sense at all. Pamela Brown, CNN Fanker.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes. And as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can. I've interviewed confidential informants. I've interviewed narcotics, drug traffickers.
That's not important.
And others. And that doesn't mean that I'm their friend. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that
you weren't interviewing
them. Friendly with me. It means that they have information that I need and that I'm trying to get at the truth, and that's what I did.
So no regrets, basically, is what you're saying.
I'm moving forward.
The catchphrase is I'm moving forward, moving forward. They are truly astonishing criminals. They're corrupt. They are dishonest. You don't marry any of these people. They will cheat on you. They will disgrace you. They will bring home monkeypox. These are the most ridiculous of people. And the anchor woman is an embarrassment to journalism, and that's pretty hard, pretty hard. So anyway, what is it? It's got nothing to do with other criminals and whether you were a prosecutor. You were taking text messages directly from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who has a child rape island where you're the non-voting delegate in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And, oh, no, we're not friends. You were just laughing and taking his text messages and quoting during you weren't pumping him you weren't uncovering crimes. You were engaged in covering up crimes and trying to lynch Trump. is what was going on. But Pamela Brown, just a dummy, not smart people. And I got to say, I loved this, a 6A. This is just amazing. This is what she said.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes. That reminded us of Ilhan Omar describing September 11th, 2001.
Some people did something.
Right, exactly. Some people did something, and a lot of people have committed a lot of crimes. The Democrats. From holiday hosting to unforgettable gifts, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. And right now, during their Sizzle All the Way sale, see Christmas theme, you can get 50% off the entire website at omahasteaks.com. Plus, because we hang out together, you get an extra $35 off with the promo code PLANT at checkout. Listen, I've told you before, my best girl and I, we love the filet mignons from Omaha Steaks. We cook them up in my grandfather's antique iron skillet. Just wonderful, delicious. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety. Every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. Every steak is perfectly aged to maximize tenderness and then hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartland. They also carry mouth-watering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and they have great desserts, too. Right now, you can save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Just visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off, half off the entire website during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for another $35 off, use the promo code PLANT at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com. The promo code is PLANT. Terms apply. See the site for details. Yes, sir. Yeah. A lot of people have committed a lot of crimes. Yeah, I think you might be among them, lady.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes.
Some people did something.
I've still got a lot. Yeah, but I do love that there. There are a lot of people who have done a lot of things. And this woman, she just lies with great ease. And you go on CNN and they're not smart enough to nail you on anything. Just completely ridiculous. Hey, I've got Jasmine Crockett coming up. Speaking of gravitas, she's got gravitas, doesn't she? A lot of gravitas on her extraordinary stuff. And I absolutely must get to the Grindr put on a fashion show featuring the wool of gay sheep. Seriously, this really happened. They got gay sheep. They've got fashion. I'll explain. And I want to come to the phones in just a moment. First, we've got another idiot Democrat member of Congress, Jasmine Crockett, on the floor of the House of Representatives. And she was out there yesterday. They're desperate. They're crazy. They're dishonest. They have the brains of squirrels. And Jasmine Crockett certainly falls into all of those categories. I can't even say what it says on the sheet here, but beeping moron Jasmine Crockett on the House floor because she's like, well, sure, I took money from Jeffrey Epstein. Sure, I'm taking my text messages and my questions in a hearing from Jeffrey Epstein. But, some Republicans got money from Jeffrey Epstein, too, 25 years ago.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly.
Somebody named
Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio. I just want to be clear. If this is the standard that we're going to make, just know we're going to expose it all. And just know that the FEC filings, they are available for everybody to review.
What a charming manner of speech she has. Her accents, she's keeping it real, I believe, is what it's called. We've been making the money, we hit it better. You're in the Congress of the United States of America. Maybe you shouldn't sound like trash living in a bus stop in a cardboard box. Just thinking. And wait a minute, what is all this? I'm sorry, Mitt Romney? Billionaires who live in New York, they send checks out at election time to everybody that's running. because they want invitations and things like that, right? But I got to tell you, first of all, I'm I'm going to say it out loud. The ghettification of the U.S. Congress is well underway, thanks to the Democrat Party, with largely illiterate, inarticulate minority women in many, many cases, just sounding like trash. If they were Caucasians and from the South, they would freely call them white trash on MS-13 DNC and on CNN and in the pages of thousands of websites. But these people are low rent, low class. They're ghetto-y. They lie. They don't speak well, and they're not truthful. And I've got to say that's kind of a big thing. That's the biggest thing, not being truthful. Really big. I remember when that mattered, when that counted for something. Not anymore, as you can see. All right, we've been talking about, I got to tell you, one of the things people are really responding to is the vaccines and the RFK Jr. team making a change to the website that nobody should have even noticed for months, but okay. The news media jumping all over it and trashing RFK Jr., the only Democrat that they'll trash. Aren't they amazing? But there are a couple of calls that I'd like to get to on the big board, because people have had a lot of experience. A lot of people have had a lot of experience with this. Let's start with, let's go to Jay, calling from Central Arkansas. It says Central Ark. I thought maybe a Central Park to begin with. Jay, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey,
Thanks
Jay.
for taking my...
You bet.
Yeah, that was a wonderful segment you had on autism and vaccines. And I wanted to call and add my 2 cents to it. Thank you for that platform. I've studied vaccines. I told the call screener that I taught for 35 years, and I'm an emeritus professor in a medical school. And people need to know that these vaccines contain heavy metals. One of the heavy metals was thimerosal, which is a mercury compound. And that's been taken out of the vaccines because of its toxicity. Now it's been substituted with aluminum salts, and those aluminum salts act as adjuvants, which allow the slow release of the antigens in the vaccine that stimulate the immune response. So you get a longer, more fulminant immune response when you have the adjuvants. The problem is that aluminum is clearly a neurotoxin. The studies go back many, many years, and the proof is solid. And the brain is composed of about 60% fat. It's the fattest organ in the human body. And heavy metals are attracted to fat because of their lipophilic nature, and they accumulate in fat tissue. So it's clear that they do accumulate in the brain. In fact, meta-analysis studies have shown that if you analyze the hairs and urine of children with autism, they have high levels of heavy metals, most notably aluminum.
Wow.
So studies are there. I don't think it's absolute unequivocal proof, but it certainly needs to be investigated, in a deeper way. And clearly there's a financial incentive to continue giving all these vaccines to children.
Right. By the millions and millions every year. And, and how many vaccines are kids getting now? I think when I was a kid, we were supposed to get 3 when I was a kid, I think.
Well, I'm an old fella. I think I got 3 or 4. And but now it's...
Measles, mumps, and rubella.
Yeah, MMR.
Right.
And in fact, they give hepatitis B vaccine to infants, which is ridiculous because hepatitis B virus is transmitted sexually and from blood and blood products. So it's not likely, unless the mother has hepatitis B, that an infant will need a vaccine.
Yeah.
So I hate to sound trite, but it really is a money-making proposition, and pediatricians are paid by pharmaceutical companies to give these vaccines.
Now, Doctor, you saw the story today that we've been talking about and the change made to the health department website. And what's your I assume that you have, because you're an intelligent man and you're discussing the topic, and I assume you have access to high-speed internet. You know, the Democrats are always trying to get high-speed internet free to everybody. And when you saw the change, and it's kind of a tweak to the website, what was your response? Is that irresponsible, or is that overdue?
I think it's overdue, and I think it is responsible to do it.
Responsible to do it, yeah.
Absolutely, no question. And I applaud RFK Jr.
Wow.
That man has a constitution to be taking all of this. I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
And so I applaud him. It's time for us to take a serious look at this, and to do it scientifically, really scientifically.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so much money involved in it. It's a driving force in denial, and I'll go on record saying that, because it is. And we're putting our kids at risk just for the God Almighty dollar. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm very happy that you called in, doctor, in 35 years, professor emeritus, teaching medicine, and you're a vax guy. Your career, a virologist, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and you think that the change made to the website is appropriate, and we ought to be looking more closely at this, because if it hasn't been ruled out, then it's still a question on the table, right?
It is, in fact, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You called in. You're my guest.
I just think there needs to be more meta-analysis to look at, multiple studies, and compile the data and look at it epidemiologically, and to see, because what we have now is an epidemic of autism spectrum disorder, and it's not been seen before like this. And this gentleman's daughter, who developed it within weeks, from my readings, that's not unusual.
Okay.
It can happen very. So, I think people have one or two experiences, and that becomes solid science, and that's just observational. But there are multiple people with children who developed autism soon after receiving vaccines. And I believe personally, it's the number of vaccines they get over a short period of time.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Jay, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate your calm contribution, and that's why we're here, to give people a flat platform to discuss the things that we ought to be discussing, and to tell the truth. Jay, thank you very much. And I'm being nudged here by Jeff, and rightly so, because our brilliant listeners have called in and said, "Hey, Plant, you're just talking about all this crazy stuff, Jeffrey Epstein," because I was actually going to go back to that, and in fact, I've got another one to go back to now, because it's true that you had this dim-witted Jasmine Crockett, dishonest lunatic Democrat, who was prattling on the House floor, the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday, about all these Republicans that took money from Jeffrey Epstein because they're trying to spread the scum, which is all over themselves. And so, he gave money to Mitt Romney when he was running for president. That's because he's a multi-billionaire living in New York, and every multi-billionaire living in New York gave money to both sides of every presidential election in modern history. That said, Mitt Romney wasn't on the airplane with Jeffrey Epstein like Bill Clinton was more than a dozen times. And Mitt Romney didn't invite Jeffrey Epstein over to his house like Bill Clinton did when he was president of the United States, living in the White House. And the list goes on and on. And then, of course, there was the Lee Zeldin claim made by, and I was planning on getting back to this because it's in the next soundbite, number 8. But I was planning on getting on this because the dim-witted member of Congress, Jasmine Crockett, said, "Oh, yeah, sure, Jeffrey Epstein gave money to Lee Zeldin." And he's now, Lee Zeldin, former member of the House, and he's now in the Trump administration, of course. And it turns out that Lee Zeldin did get a contribution from a man named Jeffrey Epstein, but it was a medical doctor named Jeffrey Epstein and a completely different Jeffrey Epstein. And she had her staff go look at the internet and find for their websites where you can see who contributed to what political sites, and just took the names and didn't bother to check. Now, how many, if you took the New York City phone book and looked up Jeffrey Epstein, how many Jeffrey Epsteins do you think would be in just the city of New York? Forget nationwide, but just the city of New York, there would be many Jeffrey Epsteins just in New York City alone. Now, let's go back to soundbite number 8, because on CNN, Caitlin Collins then asked Jasmine Crockett about, you said that Lee Zeldin got money from Jeffrey Epstein. It sounded like this.
You mentioned Lee Zeldin there. He's now a cabinet secretary. He responded and said it was actually Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who's a doctor that doesn't have any relation to the convicted sex trafficker. Unfortunate for that doctor, but that is who donated to a prior campaign of his. Do you want to correct the record on the people that
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled. And that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
No. You just deceive, misrepresent, don't check the facts because you're like a Democrat, every Democrat. And I'm sorry, they decided to spring it on us at the last minute? Is that what happened? This was sprung on you at the last... This has been going on for months, you maroon. Isn't that amazing? Caitlin Collins with Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah, but people might see that and say, well, you're trying to make it sound like he took money from
I did not know.
A registered sex offender.
No, but I literally did not know. When you search FEC files, and that's what I had my team to do, I texted them and I said, listen, we're going up. They are saying that she took donations.
Right, but someone might say, well, your team should have done the homework to make sure it wasn't the convicted sex trafficker.
Within 20 minutes, you could not find that out, not from just doing a quick search on FEC.
Yeah, the FEC website donors, and we found somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, and we decided to attack people based on my low IQ. And isn't that amazing? Jasmine Crockett.
I made sure that I was clear that it was a Jeffrey Epstein, but I never said that it was specifically that Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, so you got to listen very carefully, because she said a Jeffrey Epstein, not the Jeffrey Epstein. She didn't just say Jeffrey Epstein. She said a Jeffrey Epstein. So you got to waterboard this person to get, like, her lunch order would be a big lie. Caitlin Collins.
Well, Stacey Plaskett was texting the Jeffrey Epstein that we're all talking about. You voted against the censure for her to remove her from her committees. Maybe you don't think she should be removed from her committees.
Correct.
But why do so many Democrats seem unwilling to say it's inappropriate to be texting with a registered sex offender about what you're going to ask a witness at a congressional hearing?
So I'm not going to necessarily say that that's the case. Now, this is somebody that was a former prosecutor. Now, I haven't sat down and talked about all the specifics of why Stacey was doing what she was doing. I know that when she got up and she spoke, she talked about the fact that this is one of her constituents.
The lies are so big that no one would dare to not believe them. Joseph Goebbels, on a rotisserie in hell, has to admire these people for their shamelessness. What a disgrace. Hey, have you heard about the guy fired by the FBI after 16 years? He says because he's gay. CBS News did a big story on it. They didn't have the facts. But that doesn't matter. They're just smearing Republicans as usual. That's coming up.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Gurgle?
CBS News had a big story last night. The headline is Veteran FBI Employee, notice not the word agent, employee files lawsuit claiming he was fired for displaying a pride flag. And Scott McFarlane is the person. A 16-year FBI employee has filed a lawsuit alleging he was fired last month because he had a pride flag draped near his desk. Let's go to the soundbite number 13, Scott McFarlane, CBS News last night.
Were you surprised when you got the word you were to leave?
I wasn't surprised. I was definitely disappointed. I knew, not truly firsthand, but I knew I was on a list. There was fear after the administration came in that they were going to start looking at all of our personnel files where some of us did self-identify our sexual orientation. Some people did identify as trans.
And were they all fired? That's David Moltinsky. He was weeks away from being elevated to the position of agent after 16 years. Seems like a long time. It continued.
So there was fear early on that DOJ was going to collect this and they were going to curate a list and get rid of the undesirables.
You say it pretty casually,
the
but
undesirables.
It's pretty powerful to hear that phrase. You say you were likely on a list.
A list, you say, likely.
That's quite something.
It is.
It's concerning.
Yeah, but it's not proven. It's not been established. David Moltinsky, who is weeks away from being elevated to the position of agent, claims the firing is unlawful and sent a ripple effect of fear, as the third time with fear, through the LGBT employees at the FBI. We're not the enemy. We're not some political mob. And I got to tell you, an FBI agent friend of mine texted me moments ago, a career FBI agent, well-known, says, "Hey, Chris, on my last squad, we had 2 gay agents, 1 female and 1 male. The male was very vocal about his gayness. He got promoted many times. But, you know, CBS News, they don't want to scratch the surface too deeply because there it is. And it's all just another. So the guy wants a paycheck and he's been there for 16 years. He's not promoted to agent. I think he might have some other issues. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. I'm going to have to bring this back in tomorrow. The story with Grindr put on a fashion show featuring the wool of gay sheep. How did they know the sheep were gay? Oh, they found out. They found out the old-fashioned way. They found out the hard way. Hey, Mr. Sheep, are you gay? Nah. I don't know. Put your back legs in my boots over here and let's talk about college football.